Therapeutic Justice Support Program. He began his career with the AOC in October of 2013 when he was first hired by the Fiscal Services Division to serve as the AOC Asset Manager. In March of 2018, he was hired by the Court Services Division to serve in his current role. Tommy has a wide range of knowledge in budgeting and financial management, as well as judicial and legislative processes. Please join us in welcoming Tommy Zold.
Thank you for that introduction. Good afternoon, everybody. I see a lot of familiar faces this afternoon, so I'm going to apologize because nothing that I say in this presentation is going to be new information for you all. When the Sentencing Commission reached out and asked us if we could provide a short presentation, we decided that we would give sort of a bird's eye view of our program, treatment courts in general, and what we do. And so that's kind of that's kind of how we developed this presentation. Was that we were going to kind of pretend that nobody knew anything about us, and then when I walked in, I know half of you. So with that said, I'm going to ask for a quick raise of hands. Is there anybody in the room that is not familiar with our program, Therapeutic Justice Support Program, and what we do? Just one. All right. Well, so we'll get some information to this one individual. As just like the introduction says, my name is Tommy Zold. I'm the Statewide Program Manager with the Therapeutic Justice Support Program. I've been in my current role about 7.5 years. I came over from our Fiscal Services Division. My background is primarily finance. When our Senior Statewide Program Manager at the time took over, he had a vision for bringing somebody in that could manage the finances. He said, I remember my first day, he said, you know what, I know budgets, I know finance, I know numbers, but I want nothing to do with them, so that's why we're bringing you in. So that's my background primarily. I've been doing finance and budget and grants management for about 15 years total. I started with the Department of Public Safety, moved over to the AOC Fiscal Services Division, and been in my firm for about 7 years. So I'm going to kind of just go over a quick introduction of our program and how it falls within AOC. So within AOC, we have a number of divisions. We have Fiscal Services Division, we have our Court Operations Division, we fall within Court Services, that are Legal Services Division, or just Legal Division. I know when they were kind of coming up with their program name or their vision name, they weren't too high on the acronym of LSD, so they kind of just stuck with Legal Division. But within Court Services Division, we have a number of different programs. So we have our Behavioral Health Program, we have our Judicial Performance Evaluation Commission, Jury and Witness, Language Access, Pretrial Services, and then our program. Each of our programs within Court Services is managed by either a Senior Statewide Program Manager or the equivalent, maybe not by title, but the equivalent with the duties and the management of their programs that they oversee. So a lot of them are pretty self-explanatory. Behavioral health is our newest program within Court Services. They've been around maybe 3 years. They've been in the limelight a lot lately, just in our legislative processes and some of the things that some of the initiatives that they have going on. So that's just a little bit of an organizational chart of where we fall within AOC Court Services. This is our team. When I started with Therapeutic Justice, well, back then we were problem-solving courts, and went through a little rebranding and then another rebranding. And so we are currently the Therapeutic Justice Support Program. At the time, we only had 3 of us. It was our Senior Statewide, and it was myself, and then we had a Program Manager. We since grew to, well, we have 5 now. At one point, we had about 7. So we have a couple of vacant positions, but these are the staff members that we currently have. Deanna Corliss is our Senior Statewide Program Manager. She came to us from Metropolitan Court about 3 or 4 years ago. She has an extensive background in treatment courts. Martin Burkhardt is well, so the rest of us, the other four of us are just our statewide program managers. Martin came to us from Metropolitan Florida as well. He's been around about 4 years, but he has an extensive knowledge of treatment course. That's primarily what he did when he was with Metropolitan Florida. Mr. Carlos Gonzalez came to us from the New Mexico Department of Transportation. Mr. Gonzalez has a lot of knowledge in a wide variety of subjects. He is somewhat like me in the finance world. He's pretty procurement heavy. He is an alumni of the Santa Fe Adult Program. He's certainly not going to tell you his story because one, I could not do it justice, and two, that's his story to tell. And so I hope one day that you guys have the pleasure of meeting him so that you can hear that story. Carlos primarily oversees our alumni initiatives, and I'll kind of go into a little bit of detail on that in some of the other slides. Ana Quintana Sanchez also came to us from Metro. There's a theme there, if you can't tell. Ana oversees, and I say oversees, I want to be careful there because I don't want to put us in silos to say that I'm strictly finance, Ana is strictly risk lead responsibility, Carlos is strictly alumni. We made a concerted effort recently to kind of cross-train ourselves in all of the areas that we touch. So with that said, though, there are certainly some of us that are I'll use the word expert loosely, but experts in some of those areas. But you can certainly reach out to any of us if you have any questions regarding anything that we oversee. So with that said, Ana Quintana is primarily our overseer of our risk and responsibility initiatives. And then there's me, and I think we're going to send these PowerPoints out, so I have all of our contact information on there as well as our group email. If for some reason you wanted to reach out to any of us, you can send that an email to that group email. It goes to all of us, and somebody will respond to you. If nobody responds to you, send an email to our director and let her know. Say, hey, these guys are not responding to my emails. So these are just a couple of the initiatives that we see or we oversee in our program. These are certainly not all of them. As I mentioned, Carlos is our alumni guru. He's our expert. Back when I started, like I said, there were only about 3 of us in our team. And the vision was that we needed somebody in the alumni sector, right? Because when people leave treatment court, we didn't want them to just graduate and then never see them again, never have any type of support again. So we thought, how can we stay in touch with these individuals? How can we continue that support? And so that's where that initiative came from. Certification for all of my coordinators in here, close your eyes, plug your ears. I know my coordinators are not huge on certification, and I don't blame them. When I first started, like I said, there were only 3 of us, so the certification process was very basic. At the time, we had more programs than we have now. We have about 54, 55 programs. I think at the time we had about 60, and so we had 3 of us who were trying to certify 60 programs, and it was very quick. There wasn't a whole lot to it, and my coordinators would see me saying, why can't we go back to that? And why do we have to do it the way we do now? We are in the process of changing that. So we went through our first, I guess technically our second round of certification just recently. It takes us about 3 years to get through all of the programs. And with that comes change. And so we've identified some areas where we can change that process. And so we've got a separate committee that's going to kind of look at some of the documents that we've come out with, some of the processes. So we're kind of putting a pause on certification. Hold your applause, and we'll be in touch when we kind of get that going. But that's our certification, and I'll kind of go into where each of these a little bit more as we progress through the slides. Data management is big. You heard Krista and the young adult panel talk about data. back when I first started, we didn't have a data management system. All of our coordinators kept track of their data on individual access databases. When it came time to submit performance measures, which is what our legislature loves, and we'll kind of talk about some of that a little later, it was a very cumbersome process. And so they had to put all of that data together themselves. They then sent it to me. I then had to put all of that together. So I had an Excel spreadsheet with 60 to 70 tabs at the bottom, trying to roll up into one. And if numbers didn't make sense, it was a pain trying to figure out where we went wrong. And so that has since changed. We have our information management system now for 4 years. And I think it's going well, although I don't work primarily in it. That would be Martin. But from what I hear, I think it's going well. And I think it makes it a little bit easier on our coordinators, that now that they do not have to provide some of that data for us, we can pull on the back. Financial management, that's my area. I'll kind of go into a little bit later on how we're funded, what we do with the money, how programs request additional funding if they need it, if we identify gaps in their services, and then risk responsibility. Excuse me. You heard it in the young adult panel, high risk, high need, right? How are we identifying these individuals? Are we bringing in individuals that we truly need to provide services to, and are we successful in that? So alumni, we currently have 29 alumni programs statewide. Each district is different, each program is different. We leave that up to each program to decide whether there's a need for that, whether they have the capacity for that. And Carlos works with those individual districts, those individual programs, to see if there is a need and to see what we need to do to get that up and running. We have an alumni summit that is actually coming up tomorrow and Friday. So we have a meet and greet tonight. And that's why you got me here today, because the rest of the team is getting ready for that. So I apologize for that. I'm certainly not the best public speaker, so next year maybe you'll get somebody else. But this is our third annual alumni summit. When we had the first one back in 23, that we are aware of, that was the first alumni summit in the country. So Carlos certainly deserves all the credit for that vision and getting that up and running. This year, I believe we have about, I think, 150 plus individuals that will be attending that summit. So it is a huge event. It is a summit that is for alumni, by alumni. So we have a committee of only alumni that is tasked with getting all the logistics together. Obviously, our department has to take care of all the procurement issues because it's, we funded, so we have to take care of that. But in terms of, drafting the agenda and finding speakers and getting all that squared away, that's why I say that it is truly a for alumni body. This year, at Rise 25, we have 17 alumni that are attending. And they will be attending in Florida. 4 additional alumni are actually being funded by All Rise as they've chosen to speak on certain topics while there. That is also new for us. This is the first year that we are actually sending alumni. So that took a little bit of work getting all the approvals that we needed to get and documents and paperwork squared away. So we're pretty excited about that. That is something that we would like to continue next year. I don't know that we'll have the funding to send more. I wish we could. I know with the summit, we always strive to get a little bit more, a little bit bigger. With this one, we'll see. But right now, we're sending 17 alumni, which is a pretty big step. We also have 50 plus alumni contracts statewide. So when I say alumni contracts, we have contracts with alumni. They're small contracts. They range from about $2,500 to $5,000, and the alumni that are part of these programs can can utilize that contract to attend staffing. If they are requested to do so, they can help programs with community events, community days, anything like that. This is also a first for us. This is something that started out as a pilot last fiscal year with, I think, 15 contracts, and it exploded this year to 50 plus. So I keep telling Carlos we don't have unlimited funds. So. So in terms of certification, all programs must be certified, and like I said, we're in the process of revising that, what that looks like, what documents will need to be submitted. We have a committee now that's going to be tasked with looking at some of those revisions that we propose, and ultimately we'll have dialogue with them and say, here's what we think works, here's what the feedback that we've gotten both from either judges or coordinators or team members. Really, it really does look at the entire team. So it's not just I know the coordinators do 95% of the work in terms of getting policies and procedures and contracts for us to review, but it really is a team process. So that's why I say we want to make sure that we're getting dialogue from everybody, and so that we can ensure we're making the process as easy as we possibly can, while also understanding that there's a lot that needs to be reviewed, so that we can ensure that best practices are being adhered to. Right? We want to make sure that if we have individuals in our program, that we're not doing any type of harm to them, that we're providing them with the services that they need. And so you can kind of see some of the stuff that we review policies and procedures. Martin will go into our information management system. He'll pull certain data points to see if the information is being input correctly. We'll get other program documents. There are times we've done, I say on-site visits, but they're not surprise on-site visits. So it's not we're walking in, we're knocking on the door saying, hey, we're here, let us see all these documents. Those are visits that we will coordinate with our coordinators and say, hey, is there a time that works best for you? If you even want us, we'd like to kind of come see staffing. We really like to go to graduations. When you're at the state level and you're in an office behind a computer all day, it helps to go see those graduations. It kind of makes what we do. It helps us let us know that what we're doing matters, right? Coordinators and the team, the judges, they do all the work, but it helps us kind of see that and make it work. And so when we have presentations, or we have to sit in front of a legislative committee, helps us to kind of say, hey, here's the work that we're doing. So here's the data management portion. Like I said, 5, 6, 7 years ago, we did all this on an access database. Now we have what it is called Data Information Management System, or DIMS. So 5, 6, 7 years ago, we reported our performance measures semi-annually. And I think both Krista and Tanya mentioned, recidivism, graduation rates, retention rates, cost per client per day. Back then, we reported semi-annually because they were difficult to pull. It wasn't as easy as it is today. We had discussions with our legislative finance committee, and there came a point where they said we're going to start making budgets quarterly. And so we kind of came back to them and said, if that's what's going to happen, then we need some funding to purchase an information management system, because we just can't do that right now. And that's how we were able to procure DIMS. And so all of our coordinators throughout the state can input the data, and then when it comes time to do performance measures, we can actually do that on the back end. We can run all of those reports for them, and so long as they're inputting the information throughout the quarter, we can get that so that we don't have to bother them. The only part that we can is the cost, because DIMS is an information management system for treatment, and it's not finance related. There's no way for our coordinators or staff to input any sort of financial data. So we still need some help and some coordination in that regard. But I think for the most part, it has worked out. It's worked out pretty well. So you can see we have 54 treatment courts statewide. Those vary. That's adult drug courts, juvenile drug courts, auto juvenile. I think we're down to maybe 3. When I started, I think we were at 8. So we probably had about one juvenile court close a year since I've been here. We've got veterans treatment courts, mental health courts, DWI courts, family courts, and so these figures that I have here were actually pulled from our last performance measures in the third quarter. We had 939 active participants as of March 31st. We had 115 graduates during the third quarter of FY25. The graduation rate is 68%, which is actually pretty good. I think the average is somewhere around 55–60%, so we're above average there. And then our recidivism rates, intensive treatment, all participants that come through a program, and then graduate recidivism, obviously just the graduates. So that's our data information management system. If you have any questions regarding that, please let me know. I was just in San Antonio last month for a small conference, and DIMS seems to be very popular database, and so I know when Martin and I were there, we got quite good questions on that. So they do a lot, so if anybody has any questions as far as information management systems, please let us know. I might have to refer you to Martin, but we will make that happen. So our finance part. We are funded primarily through a general fund, through our general fund appropriation, and through a liquor excise tax fund. That has changed since I started. When I first started, it was just general fund, and then we had a smaller grant, and I had it there at the bottom, the traffic safety division grant. It's changed for the better. So general fund, as you are aware, is a reverting fund. So 5–6 years ago, around this time of year, March, April, it was a mad dash for everybody to spend so that we didn't revert anything. When we got the liquor excise tax fund, that was established as a non-reverting fund. So now we have a little bit of a fund balance. Now there's less pressure. So if we have some of our treatment courts who we fund, you can see that there we provide about $3.2 million in supplemental funding to 40 of our treatment courts. Not all of them, about 40 of them. They can breathe a little bit easier knowing that whatever is not spent will go into that fund balance, and then we have access to that, in the years that follow. So long as we don't let that fund balance, get too high, we typically don't receive any questions, or we haven't yet. It's not a huge fund balance at the moment, but it's certainly better than zero. We do have a small traffic safety division grant. That's a $300,000 grant that we use to start DWI programs in magistrate courts. And so that is, if I'm not mistaken, that is how all of our magistrate court programs that we have in the state, that will be 10 or 11 of them. That's how all of them started at one point. So they're 3-year grants in 3 years. After 3 years, we pick them up on our budget. But if anybody has any ideas for a magistrate program out there, certainly reach out. We do have access to that funding. I'm trying to keep an eye on my time here. So here's our risk need responsibility. So we target high-risk, high-need individuals, right? That's important. We want to make sure that we are not, mixing populations and that we're not harming individuals who may not be high-risk, high-need. And so the risk portion of this is who should be treated, right? The need is what should be treated, and the responsibility is how to be treated. Anna has been working a lot on I didn't include it here, so the Ohio Risk Assessment System, ORAS, comes from the University of Cincinnati Research Institute. So she's been working a lot with UCRI to get training. She actually has, I think we've just got a contract executed for her to provide another refresher training next fiscal year. So if you have any questions regarding ORAS or any other screening tools, Anna will be the one to reach out to. I think that's all I have to say about R&R. So treatment court basics. So that was kind of a very quick overview of our department, what we do, or our program, I should say, what we do, how our team is sort of comprised. So now I'll do, I think I only have 2 slides left about the basics of treatment court. We have an implementation program where we have new programs that come up, and we typically spend, I think, 2 4-hour days on all of this. So there's a lot to it. So I apologize if I'm going fast or if I'm just doing very basics. You can absolutely, please feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. So treatment court basics, like I said, we want to target our high-risk, high-need population. We focus on the recovery and we focus on the individualized evidence-based treatment. We provide community supervision, support. It's an alternative to incarceration, and it's a non-adversarial, multidisciplinary team approach, right? So I'll get into it in the next slide, but it's multidisciplinary that you've got, maybe 8 or so team members from various backgrounds who are coming together not adversarially to discuss the participants that are part of this program so that we can get them the support that they need. And so the team can be made up of, doesn't necessarily have to have all of these roles on the team, but you need at least 5 of them. You need the judge, coordinator, treatment provider, your prosecutor, and your defense attorney. So all of our teams are built or comprised of some combination of those depending on resources. They may not be able to find law enforcement, they may not have the support officer, the coordinator might double as 1 or 2 of these individuals, but the judge is going to be your team leader, right? So the judge will coordinate and collaborate with the team during staffing, but ultimately the judge will have the final say. You'll have your coordinator who does a lot of the heavy lifting, so they are going to coordinate between the team and the judge and the participants. They're going to be responsible for scheduling staffing, all of that, providing data, performance measures. That's your coordinators. Then you have your treatment provider. Fairly self-explanatory, right? You can't have a treatment program without a treatment provider. And I understand that can be difficult at times, especially in our rural locations, our rural jurisdictions. I know we had one jurisdiction that had to go out for RFP, and it was 3 different times because they just could not get a treatment provider to respond. I think it was the 4th time where we finally got somebody, but without that, they were stuck. They could not do anything. They had the judge, they had the coordinator, they had the attorneys, but they did not have a provider. And so sometimes our programs are just handicapped in that sense, and that there's just nothing we can do. We can throw all the money we have in them, and if they just don't have a treatment provider, they just can't do anything. And so I think that is it. That's our team. Like I said, I know that was quick. I think I have about 5 minutes left if anybody has any questions, but that's who TJSP is, and yeah, one
The only question I have is with regard to your treatment provider, and you are considered because of the rural community, virtual based.
Yeah, so if you didn't hear the question, for our rural locations, have we considered virtual as opposed to having in person? We have, and we do have some programs that do that have a little bit of both, especially during COVID. I think that's when it became really popular. We had programs that kind of did a little bit of both, just kind of it made it easier on the participants, and they were trying to abide by all the guidelines that came out of COVID and and in person and all that. Do we have any programs in here that are strictly virtual? I don't think that we do. But if it's an option, it's not the best. We would prefer to do it in person because you have that human element. You're there, you're in person, you can see people, you can talk to them. When it's virtual, it's a little bit, it's just, you lose part of that element of actually being in court. But if it's a last resort, if there are ways we can kind of build the virtual into it, that's certainly a possibility, but we probably see not to do it 100% if that's possible. But that's part of the challenges that we have in our rural locations, and that's an unfortunate reality. Any other questions? Well, thank you guys very much. I appreciate it. We will get you these slides so you have all the contact information. If you have any other questions as you think of them, please feel free to reach out to either our team, the group email, or reach out to one of us individually if you have a question that you think might be more specialized for either data or finance or anything like that. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it.